Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. A lot of cards get released all the time, and often those cards can make some of our existing videos obsolete. Now, normally I wait until the new year to round up all these updates and put them together in one place, but that's been a bit too slow for a bit too long. So, to catch you up on all the cards available in the TCG since last we covered these themes, both from within this set and from others, it's time for the Legacy of Destruction Release Roundup. Now, there's a lot of wild cards coming out of this set, and I want to help you get your hands on as many of them as possible. Join me on April 26th as we delve into a couple of boxes of Legacy of Destruction, and hunt down some of the premier chase cards like Songenpai Transcendent Dragon, Shining Sarcophagus, and Varudra, the final bringer of the End Times. I'll be hosting a stream over on Whatnot, a direct selling platform that covers all things collectible, with the twist that all of it is streamed. Come watch us crack open some packs live, and if you buy any, you'll be able to show off your cool pools for the world to see. I'm even going to be giving away some of these packs too. All you gotta do is sign up for Whatnot using my link in the description, bookmark the show so you don't miss it, and show up on the day to join the giveaway. You even get a $15 credit on your account just for signing up to use on whatever you want, including packs and cards that'll be at the upcoming show. Heck, it's almost like I'm giving away even more free packs, and you don't even have to win a giveaway to get those ones. So remember, April 26th, Whatnot, use my sign up link, get credit, and cool cards. Hope I'll see you there, and thank you so much for watching. Now, let's take a look at some of the cards you can expect to pull from Legacy of Destruction. Part 1. Centur-Ion. I'm not saying Centur-Ion. A new challenger has arrived to square off against a girl and her mech animated by a fire elemental. Or at least I feel like it's a new challenger, like a kind of opposite to Legacia in the gang. Currently, Centur-Ion has a bad rap for being the best vessel for the game's worst tactic, turn skipping. So the question is, will the new cards give it the tools it needs to build its own identity? Centur-Ion Gargoyle II is a level 8 Dark Dragon monster with 2000 attack and 3000 defense, and you can send a face-up Centur-Ion card you control to the grave to special summon this card from your hand. Also, you can't special summon copies of this card for the rest of the turn. If this card is sent to the grave as synchro material, you can add this card to your hand. And during the main phase, if this card is a continuous trap card, you can special summon this card, then you can decrease its level by 4. This is our new Emeth VI, but where that card can only special summon itself from the hand during your opponent's turn, Gargoyle does so on yours, though you actually have to spend a card to make it work, not set up a monster in your back row for later. That's not the worst, we do have a variety of cards to use with it, especially because we keep pushing cards into our back row. We'll just need to make sure we manage those resources properly. It also has the usual effect to summon itself from the back row, but this time it can decrease its level by 4, making it more flexible than Emeth, and notably is an opposite to Trudea's level increasing effect, which may be using the mechanics to represent the pilot ejecting from the machine, cutting its level in half. I originally thought it may be the Spirit, but that actually comes later. It's also another monster that seems to look like Vanquished Soul Kaiser Valius. What's going on here? Was Magnum the reliever not enough? Centur-Ion Oxala is a level 12 Dark Dragon Synchro monster with 3000 attack and defense, requiring generic materials. Face-up cards in your spell and trap zone can't be destroyed by card effects, and if this card is special summoned, you can add a Centur-Ion card from your deck to your hand. And during the end phase, you can place a non-synchro Centur-Ion monster from your grave or banishment face-up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous trap card. This adds to our big synchro roster. Like Legacia, it puts a non-synchro on-theme monster into our back row, but where that one took it from hand and grave, we take from grave into banishment, and has a protection effect, this time covering our back row, which not only keeps our monsters loaded up in there safe, but also other cards that go in the back row. Potential issues with that aside, this does protect Primera while they're in the back row, which itself protects our level 5 and higher Centurions. So once it's set up, this synchro actually has some extra protection that itself protects the card, giving it protection. Oh, and it searches you a card when it's special summoned, which can be either an extender or our powerful counter trap. Oxala even sets up a card in your back row to spend on that counter trap. Sadly though, we may have moved from one annoying gimmick to another. If Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity ever gets sacked, we may be in for a deck that goes all in on Protected Floodgates. Is this deck just doomed to be unfun? Wake Up Centur-Ion is a quick play spell card that you can activate if a face-up monster card is in your spell and trap zone. Declare level 4 or 8, and you can special summon a Centur-Ion token with that level, which is also a Dark Pyro with 0 attack and defense, which basically makes it the team's spirit. But it can't be used as fusion or link material. And during your main phase, you can banish this card from your grave to send a Centur-Ion card from your deck to the grave, except a copy of this card. Yeah, just a free token as long as we've met the requirements. Not only does this help give us free materials in Centur-Ion, but also in a number of decks that like pushing cards into the background. While fusions and links are off the table, you still get to use it for synchro summoning. And, well, I'm sure Valance will find a way to make use of that. And by sending a Centur-Ion card from your deck to the grave, you can set up the summon of any of our on-theme monsters using either of our Synchro's effects, as well as with the card Bond. Overall, this doesn't seem like it's going to impact the play patterns of the deck much, so let's just hope the feedback they've been given is a huge wake-up call. Part 2. Gold Pride. I am so excited to talk about these ones. TCG exclusives can be a little hit or miss. Please be good, Ashen. Please, 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 please! But thankfully, I feel like Gold Pride was just competent enough to be fun, with a fresh enough gimmick that made it an interesting play experience. It even meshes incredibly well with the existing punk theme, giving it a huge power boost it otherwise wouldn't have. Now all it needed was more consistent and robust ways to get its game plan off the ground, and these cards don't do that. Gold Pride Eliminator is a level 5 Earth Machine Tuner monster with 1800 attack and 800 defense, and like all our Gold Pride main deck monsters, if your life points are lower than your opponent's, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can banish one other Gold Pride monster from your hand, face-up field, or graveyard that has a level to special summon a Gold Pride token of the same level. Also, it's a Dark Machine with 0 attack and defense. But this card can't be used as material for a fusion, synchro, xyz, or link summon for the rest of the turn, except for a Gold Pride monster. Now, as a tuner, you may be thinking synchro, but not Star Leon, because we don't have a level 1 non-tuner to pair with this, token or no. We do have a new level 8 synchro coming up, which means Captain Carry can help in that regard. And this does mean that Leon Summon Rollerballer is now an option, because that will make level 8 so you can make our new monster. And as long as you don't banish Rollerballer for the token making effect, this also acts as a way to get to Nitro Blaster. And if you want to get really out there, because Rollerballer and Eliminator are both level 5, you could make Ultimaya Zolkin before you use the token making effect. That being said, that's all pretty underwhelming. We already had ways to get our extra deck monsters pretty well, and we're already accessing a lot of off-theme synchros anyway thanks to those punk cards, so this feels very unnecessary. I thought card games on motorcycles were supposed to be cool. What's going on here? Gold Pride Eradicator is a level 8 Dark Warrior Synchro monster with 2700 attack and 1700 defense, requiring generic material. During your opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can target a fusion, synchro, xyz, or link monster on the field, or up to 2 instead if your life points are lower than your opponent's, and destroy them. And like all our Gold Pride extra deck monsters, during the end phase of a turn this card's effect is activated, you must return it to the extra deck. And if you do, special summon a Gold Pride Eliminator from your deck or grave. See, the cool thing is that when our other monsters do this, it's usually getting us a card with a cool on-summon effect. Carry gets us a trap card, Leon summons a monster from grave, Eliminator is just bland. Also, only being able to hit extra deck monster super types means you can't use this to interrupt your opponent, usually. Generally, these are the kinds of monsters that make bosses. So if they have any kind of protection or negation, Eradicator's not really going to be able to help you. All in all, these two cards feel like unnecessary padding, which is a real shame because this is probably the closest I'm getting to the IGPX theme, and they squandered it! Part 3. Melodious. Doing a complete 180, this legacy support actually is exploring a design space that's been sorely missing for years now. You would think that during the Age of Pendulum, an archetype that gains bonuses when special summoned would join in on the mechanic, but you'd be wrong. Nothing was stopping you from using off-theme scales, mind you, but that meant none of it could really mesh entirely well with the theme. But that stops today. It's time for the beefiest updates to come out of Legacy of Destruction. First up is Refrain, the Melodious Songstress, a level 4 Light Fairy Pendulum monster with 1600 attack and 800 defense with a scale of 1. As a pendulum spell, you can target a Melodious fusion monster you control to send a Melodious monster from your deck to the grave, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to the sent monster's level times 200 until the end of the turn. As a monster, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can add a Melodious monster from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. If a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to the field while this card is face up in your extra deck, except during the damage step, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Well, a Stratos on a pendulum monster. I'm sure that's going to go over very well. This'll do a great job of boosting your consistency and makes for great fusion material thanks to the fact that it'll just put itself back into the scales when you do so. Just be careful, it has to be face up in the extra deck to trigger this effect, so you cannot use this as material from the hand or as directly from the deck when playing Ostinato. And then you get to just boost up one of your fusions once per turn, because it's not like we have a big multi-attacker or anything, or heaven forbid, use our graveyard. That would be absurd. This is a very powerful addition to the theme, but if you don't want to be punished, I would recommend that you refrain from overextending. Couplet, the Melodious Songstress, is a level 5 light fairy monster with 1200 attack and 2000 defense with a scale of 9. As a pendulum spell, it prevents you from pendulum summoning except for the summon of light monsters, which can't be negated, though that really shouldn't be a problem if you're playing the light deck. And if you don't control any face-up monsters, save for Melodious monsters, you can add a Melodious spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. As a monster, if this card is added to your hand except by drawing it for your normal draw, you can reveal this card to special summon a level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or grave. It also shares an effect with Refrain, where you can place it into your pendulum zone from your face-up extra deck if a Melodious fusion monster is special summoned to your field. This is a very strong add off of Refrain if you have another Melodious to work with. Couplet can deploy that monster, gaining its bonus effects if applicable, while keeping Couplet in hand so you can scale it, where it'll get you a free card. Granted, we don't actually have a lot of Melodious spell or trap cards. That's not to say we don't have a lot of spells and traps that support Melodious, but very few are actually name-stamped, basically restricting us to the currently available Melodious Illusion and a card we'll get into in just a bit, which is admittedly gonna be super good. Basically, if you take Refrain and couple it with this, you'll have yourself a dynamic duet. Baka, the Melodious Maestra, is a level 7 light fairy fusion monster with 2500 attack and 1800 defense, requiring 2 Melodious monsters as material. While this fusion summoned card is on the field, your Melodious fusion monster's activated effects cannot be negated. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck, and if this card is sent to the grave, you can target a Melodious monster in your grave, accept a copy of this card, and special summon it in defense position. Wow, this card is just pulling material out of its blouse, huh? So we fusion summon this, though notably this works on any special summon, and get a free Melodious out of our deck. This means we can get Aria, which provides effect targeting protection to our monsters plus battle destruction immunity, Soprano for more fusion summoning and monster recycling, or either of our main deck Maestras that are otherwise a pain to summon. And if this card is sent to the grave from anywhere, you get a free Melodious back from your grave. Easy peasy. All the while keeping your purple cards unaffected by negation while it's out, helping to push through your plays. It's an absolutely fantastic card, and you can bet I'll be Baka for more. Flowering Etoile, the Melodious Magnificate, is a level 8 light fairy fusion monster with 2800 attack and 1500 defense, requiring a Melodious Maestra and 2 Melodious monsters as material. As a quick effect, you can banish any number of Melodious monsters you control until the end phase, then you can return up to that many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. And if this face-up fusion summoned card and its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck or extra deck. So the more Melodious monsters you can deploy, the more cards you can compulse back to your opponent's hand at any given time. This may seem counterintuitive since many of our Melodious need to be special summoned to apply their bonus effects, but now it's time for rulings! If a monster is temporarily banished, characterized by a banishing effect that returns the monster to the field at a specified time, it remembers the way it was summoned initially. So you can temporarily banish an Aria as part of this, and it'll still keep your board nice and cozy. And if your opponent does manage to send this to the bin, you can get any Melodious from either of your decks onto the board. And let's just say that Bloom Diva is more than ready to throw down. And they're gonna need that protection. It's only a matter of time before Melodious and Sulfachord clash head to head to see who the real deck made of cute, musical-themed women are. Melodious Concerto is a normal spell card that fusion summons any fairy fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand, field, and/or pendulum zone as material. And if any number of Melodious fusion monsters are sent to the grave while this card is in your grave, even during the damage step, you can place this card on the bottom of the deck, then draw a card. Oh yeah, this card is just bonkers. Let me run you through the playline here. If you have Refrain, you normal summon it, searching out Couplet. Regardless of if you have another Melodious to summon or not, proceed to scale Couplet, activating its effect to search Concerto. Activate it, fusing away the Refrain in the Monster Zone and the Couplet in the Pendulum Zone to make Baka, which can itself summon Soprano from the deck. This will allow you to scale both of your Pendulum monsters. Then you can use Refrain's effect, targeting Baka, to send Aria from deck to grave. Then, as long as you have any other Melodious monster, you can fuse it, Soprano, and Baka together to make Flowering Etoile. This will trigger Baka's effect to summon back a Melodious, summoning back the Soprano to use its soft once per turn fusion effect again, as well as recycling any of the Melodious sent to grave over the course of this combo. And because a Melodious fusion was sent to grave, you can put Concerto on the bottom of your deck to draw a card. Not only setting it up to be searched by Couplet next turn, but also making it so you go +2 total in card economy. And from here, you're free to pendulum summon as many light monsters as you want to pair with Flowering Etoile, including the Aria that we sent to graveyard earlier in the turn to give everything targeting and battle destruction protection, because why not? This is staggeringly powerful, and if it was part of any other archetype, it'd be going off the rails right now. Heck, as a branded player, I wish Branded Fusion could do half the stuff this card can. And, well, Quem and Cartesia are both light monsters, and that's when Nova thought of an idea. An awful idea. Nova got a wonderful, awful idea. Part 4, Memento. See, I told you that an extra deck monster for the theme was on the way. It just goes to show that complain and you shall receive. On top of reading actual card text. It's not Bakuri Box like I was hoping it would be, but this support has subverted my expectations in the best possible way. You'll see what I mean right now. Mementotlin Twin Dragon is a level 7 light thunder fusion monster with 2800 attack and 2100 defense, and is based on, wait for it, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, aka the original ace monster of Noajenk in Progression Poles. And since we already had a Tri-Horned Dragon retrain in the theme, this makes Memento the official archetype of Progression Poles. It requires 2 Memento monsters as material, and any monster destroyed by battle with your Memento monsters are banished instead. If it's fusion summoned, you can destroy a Memento monster in your hand or on your field, and if you do, add up to 2 Memento monsters with different names from each other from your deck to your hand. And if this fusion summoned card is destroyed, you can special summon a level 6 or lower Memento monster from your grave. Talk about a Swiss Army knife of a monster. Graveyard-centric decks are probably never going to go out of style. Heck, Mementos is one of them. So depending on the matchup, Twin Dragon's effect that turns all of our monsters into lesser fiends can deny your opponent a tremendous amount of advantage. Now, it does non-bow with Combined Creation, since that card wants to be the only monster you control in order to attack your opponent's whole front line. But if that's the case, you can just have Twin Dragon pop itself as part of the on-summon effect. Twin Dragon's other effects are utter perfection though. Searching 2 monsters is huge, and giving up a monster on your field is part of the effect instead of the cost. So unlike cards such as Machina Redeployment or Earth's Arctic Departure, you don't end up at a disadvantage if you get ashed. And that effect makes our numerous setup lines even easier, as now we don't always need access to Memento Mictlan, the archetype's field spell, in order to access every effect we need. Not to mention that this is another name that we can send back to the extra deck to summon Combined Creation, making it very repeatable. But my favorite interaction for this card is with the one and only Mementotlin Horned Dragon. If you can summon Twin Dragon during your opponent's turn, and that's about to get super easy, then you can destroy Trihorn, use his effect to pop 2 of your opponent's cards and Twin Dragon, then use Twin Dragon's effect to float into Anguish and search Mace or Goblin, or into Gaddock to retrieve a back row. It's kinda wild. Mementotlin probably isn't going to be a theme that shapes the format, but with cards like this, you can bet it'll try. Memento Fusion is a quick play spell card that, during the main phase, Fusion summons any fusion monster, using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a Memento monster. However, if a monster in your possession was destroyed by a card effect this turn, you can also shuffle Memento monsters in your grave into your deck as material as well. And also during your main phase, you can banish this card from your grave to destroy a monster you control, and if you do, add a Memento spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. Wow, it's hard to describe how huge this card is for us, but I'll do my best. Worst case scenario, it's an El Shaddai fusion that'll get you into Twin Dragon. Though, because it can only be used during the main phase, we won't be able to use it to push for extra damage during the battle phase. However, it can help you dodge some targeted interaction, so it's not the end of the world. One monster pop later though, and this card becomes an on-theme parallel world fusion, and that could not be easier to enable. I mean, when are you not grinding your monster's bones to make your bread, right? And while you will need to use Bone Party or Fracture Dance on one of your own monsters, ideally Horned Dragon, to get it online during your opponent's turn, that's a hoop worth jumping through, because this summons any fusion monster. So we can have a lot of fun thanks to this card. Summoning Twin Dragon on our opponent's turn to pop Horned Dragon is pretty gnarly as it is, but we can also take a leaf out of Brandon's book and summon Guardian Chimera and add a draw on top of it. Though you won't be able to shuffle back mementos from your grave if you want to do this, Guardian Chimera's material are very specific, so if you're feeling more eco-friendly, just leave a Twin Dragon in your grave, then send it back along with one of your dark mementos to make Predaplant Dragostapelia, giving you extra negation and a way to mess with your opponent's levels. The grave effect also isn't anything to sneeze at either. With how great all of our spells and traps are, I don't need to tell you how good the back row search is. I mean, I did already make a whole video covering those after all. And heck, Fusion can even grab another copy of itself to keep the Fusion train going. But what I want to draw attention to is the destruction effect. It doesn't just destroy a Memento monster to get you that search, it can destroy any monster you control. I can't even begin to tell you just how much that can enable. If you want a head start, Gaddock and Goblin are both fiends, making Unchained a pretty tasty line you can follow. But if you want to avoid cooking Memento with other themes for the time being, then one of the best generic targets I can recommend for this effect is Pit Knight Early. You link summon early, use Fusion's effect in the graveyard to destroy her and grab another Memento back row, then you summon Combined Creation later in the turn. Then, once the end phase kicks in, because early was destroyed by a card effect, you summon her from the grave so that she's pointing to Combined Creation, potentially adding another monster negate to your board when you trigger Combined Creation summoning effect. That about covers that, and we need to wrap this section up pretty quickly, cause the Gem Knights have a monopoly on all gem-related fusion effects, and they are not going to be happy seeing this. Part 5. Skull Servant. The eternal archetype. Every time I see new Skull Servant support, I get a little grin, and they chose the perfect time to introduce this one in particular. Much like how Lightsworn and the white support released in Light of Destruction, Legacy of Destruction brought us new Lightsworn cards, and so we must also have more white. White Lord is a level 1 light zombie monster with 300 attack and 200 defense, making this an honorable Karibo. It's also a fully fledged Skull Servant, at least while in the grave. And if Skull Servant or King of the Skull Servants is in your grave, you can send this card from your hand or field to the grave to send cards from the top of your deck to the grave up to the number of Skull Servant or King of the Skull Servants in your grave. You can also banish this card from your grave, then target a Skull Servant or King of Skull Servants in your grave and special summon it. Wow, this card is really trying to push the envelope, huh? As a reminder, we have a lot of cards that count as Skull Servant while in the grave. This is primarily to boost the power of King of the Skull Servants to dizzying heights, but in this context, we've got a way to mill a lot of cards very quickly. Heck, it's even a Mizuki for the theme, getting you back your monsters for free. Not only does this mean easier access to your King of Skull Servants, the Lady in White is also a valid target because of their name change effect, giving your other level 3 or lower face-up zombie monsters immunity to spell and trap effects, as well as battle destruction protection. This is a huge boon to the theme, giving you a chance to load up your grave after an initial investment and bringing your liege to field in full force to close things out. And honestly, it's so good to see that Jane and Raiko have a gig lined up for them in the afterlife. Job security is very important after all. Part 6. Vaalmonica. Valiant Smasher's strangest playstyle has come back for another round. Memento's self-destruction gimmick has been done to death, And Centur-Ions using the back row as a staging ground for your monsters is becoming more and more banal as time goes on. But a deck focused both on life point gain and self-inflicting damage has a lot of cool design space that can be explored. The question is, how will these new cards explore that territory? Celatrice Vaalmonica is a level 4 water spellcaster monster with 1200 attack and defense, and while you control a monster other than copies of this card, your opponent's monsters can't target this card for attacks. If this card is normal or pendulum summoned, you can add a Vaalmonica card from your deck to your hand except a copy of this card. And if this card is sent to the grave and you have 2 Vaalmonica cards in your pendulum zones, you can add this card to your hand. Hey, our little girl with the shoulder guidance counselors is here, and works very well in conjunction with them. Either of the scales fetches the other, then you can pendulum summon Celatrice to grab any Vaalmonica spell or trap card that'll help your current situation. Alternatively, you can normal summon Celatrice, grab one of the scales, and set it up from there. It also makes for the best material to make our link monsters, because as long as we have our scale set up, this goes right back to our hand so we can do it again once you have the counters necessary for the other link. Overall, this is a pretty good consistency booster for the deck with a little extra upside. It turns out what the theme needed all along was a little bit of centrism. Who knew? Vaalmonica Disharmonia is a normal spell card that places a resonance counter on a card in your pendulum zone that you can place a resonance counter on, then apply one of these effects. Either gain 500 life points, then you can add a banished Vaalmonica card to your hand except a copy of this card, or take 500 damage, then you can add a Vaalmonica card from your grave to your hand, except a copy of this card. So right off the bat, this is an accelerator for the theme, getting you a total of 2 counters by itself. And if you can mimic it with one of your Vaalmonica pendulum monsters, that's 3 resonance counters right there. It even comes with a way to recycle your cards, both the ones you banished for copying or are just sitting in the grave waiting to be claimed. It's funny that this is the card depicting the shoulder creatures having a spat, because this is probably the best card in the theme when it comes to actually making it all work together. What kind of lesson are we supposed to be taking away from this? Vaalmonica Invitare is a quick play spell card that has you applying one of 2 effects. Either special summon a Vaalmonica monster from your deck, also you can't activate the effects of monsters on the field for the rest of the turn after this card resolves except Vaalmonica monsters, or if you control a non-pendulum Vaalmonica monster, which means either our new main deck monster or our links, take 2 Vaalmonica pendulum monsters with different names from your deck and add one of them to your hand, while adding the other to your extra deck face up. Now, that first option isn't too good. The pendulum Vaalmonicas will just copy a card in your grave, and Celatrice doesn't gain an effect when special summoned in general, only when pendulum summoned. Not to mention it makes any off-theme monsters we put onto our board completely useless. Our best option is to normal summon Celatrice, grab Invitare, and use its second effect. Like we've said before, since we get to keep one of them, we still have access to our full scales. And you end up with a guaranteed Vaalmonica in your extra deck to pendulum summon with those complete scales, which can in turn double dip on a Vaalmonica spell or trap card that you've used. Heck, if you manage to get enough counters on both of your scales, you can make both of your links immediately with these 2 material. Though, honestly, I'd be okay with just getting one of them. Heck, you can link Celatrice and the other Vaalmonica of your choice into a link 2 instead, and still get Celatrice back into your hand, since it only cares about having 2 Vaalmonicas in your scales when sent to grave, not that they have a certain number of counters on them. This is another fantastic addition to the theme, even if it is a tad resource intensive, and I'm sure will be the deck's piano key to victory. Part 7. Voiceless Voice. A name I am loath to say, but should because it is the official translation. For the record, Silent Force, way cooler. Vovo, as it's come to be known, is hitting a bit of a rough spot nowadays. Snake Eye is proving far too powerful for this new ritual deck to be the true counter we all hoped it would be. But with some helpful splashing from an outside theme, thank you once again to Branded Fusion, I don't know what we'd do without you, it's slowly crawling its way back into its rightful place in the competitive scene, and hopefully these next few cards will be able to help with that. Sever, Divine Dragon of the Voiceless Voice, is a level 7 Light Dragon Ritual monster with 2550 attack and 2450 defense that you can ritual summon with the card Blessing of the Voiceless Voice. If this card is ritual summoned and you have low the Prayers of the Voiceless Voice on your field or in your grave, you can draw 2 cards, then discard a card. When an attack is declared involving a light ritual monster that's either a warrior or dragon, you can discard a random card from your opponent's hand, and during your opponent's end phase, you can add a light monster from your grave to your hand. Now, if you remember the original form of Saphira, these effects might seem familiar, and that's because all of these are Saphira's modal effects. So instead of having to choose one every turn, you can access each one of them by meeting different conditions. And while the draw discard effect isn't quite as repeatable, being able to hand rip and recycle light monsters on a regular basis is just the kind of nonsense a control deck wants in their tool belt. This makes for a great boss monster to stand alongside our new Skull Guardian, and here's hoping we're in for a new Cerevis as well. But honestly, I don't know where you go with it. I mean, it's already ancient and ascended. Blessings of the Voiceless Voice is a continuous spell card that once per turn lets you target a Voiceless Voice card in your grave or in your banishment, except copies of this card, and adds it to your hand. If any number of non-ritual monsters are normal or special summoned face up, except during the damage step, you can ritual summon a light warrior or dragon ritual monster from your hand by tributing monsters from your hand and or field whose total levels equal or exceed the ritual monster's level, and if you do, it can't be destroyed by battle. So, by itself, it just gets you back an on-theme card every turn, monster, spell, or trap. Great for recycling basically everything. Though personally, I'm happy we have a way to get back Radiance so we can keep that disruption online. And then it just comes with another ritual summoning effect to help mobilize your blue monsters, an effect that can be triggered by either your or your opponent's monsters being summoned, potentially letting you ritual summon during your opponent's turn to trigger effects when you otherwise wouldn't be able to. Barrier is still our most important continuous card to get onto the field off of low, but if you're set up with that, this makes for a great follow-up. Truly, Bless is more. Part 8, Yubel. Our last section revolves around the standout performer of our last core set, Phantom Nightmare. It already made a great home for super polymerization, and with these new cards coming up, it's about to break into the meta with help from some other fiends that like being destroyed and enjoy link summoning. Gruesome Grave Squirmers, a level 1 Dark Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense that, as a quick effect, you can special summon from your hand if you control a Fiend monster, then you can destroy a monster you control that is Yubel, or that mentions it. You can banish this card from your grave to special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your hand or grave, except a copy of this card. This is a strange kind of hand trap that lets you pop one of your Yubel cards in response to interaction, though you can also use this proactively. And once it hits the graveyard, you can revive one of your eligible Yubels, or any other fiend with 0 attack and defense. The Sacred Beast fiends are all valid targets here, especially our new level 7 Phantasmal Summoning Beast, which just free summons any of your beasts effectively from your deck. And as far as Yubels go, this can even summon out our Fusion, which is absurd. Expect to see this making splashes in a number of decks moving forward, especially Vanquish Soul. Not sure if it has any actual synergy, but GGS over here looks stanced up and ready for the next battle. Nightmare Throne is a field spell card that, when activated, takes a fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your deck and either adds it to your hand or destroys it. Once per turn, if any number of face-up Yubel monsters you control leave the field by a card effect, except during the damage step, you can add a Yubel monster from your deck, grave, or banishment to your hand whose original level is 1 higher or lower than one of those monsters that left the field. Then, you can special summon it, ignoring its summoning conditions. So, on a field spell, you can grab any of the aforementioned fiends, including some very important DD monsters. And if you don't want to add them, you can just blast them right out from your deck. And if we pop base Yubel with this, that gets us Terror Incarnate. And kind of like how Nightmare Pain gives all of our Yubels the damage reflection effect of our base form, Nightmare Throne allows all of our other Yubels to have the transformation effect as well, not just the baseline version. So if Spirit of Yubel is on the field and it gets destroyed, you can also summon Terror Incarnate, as well as summoning regular Yubel with its own effect. This even lets you be more proactive with it, because while Terror Incarnate can transform into the ultimate nightmare no matter how it leaves the field, it does miss timing. You're going to be seeing a lot of this once people are cracking packs, but for the love of the Supreme King, do not follow Yubel's example here. Fix your friggin' posture, people. I don't care how gay you are, your spine will thank you. And that covers everything you need to know when it comes to all of our returning favorites coming out at the end of the month with Legacy of Destruction. But that's not all the set has to offer. Check out some of my other videos to learn more about the new Tri-Type support theme Rika, Ancient Gears with their new support, the new Battle Phase Brutalizers Tenpai Dragons, and of course, Lightsworns and their shadowy counterparts. And be on the lookout for more videos later this month as we cover all of the new cards coming out of the OCG when their version of Infinite Forbidden gets released. So, in the meantime, which of these cards are you looking most forward to? Any silly text that you've cooked up? And which card do you want to hurl against the wall like a big pile of spaghetti the most? For me, that's gotta be Goblin Biker Troika Griare, but that's gonna have to wait until we cover the Yubel lore out of Infinite Forbidden. Trust me, it is getting good. Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you haven't already yet, please be sure to like the video. If you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons, as well as the lovely people over at Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. Today's episode was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders, the Critic of Innocence and Upstairs Media, Nebula Navigators 3rd Dynasty, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Owexitowa Hime, Anansi Dragon, Andrew Newman, Kane Senpai, Chibi Gohan, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Comrade Copperbottom, Emily-chan, Eric, Aaron the World Breaker, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Groog, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Mana Charge, Marion James E. Bacata, Megacombi, Millennia Asta, Muzuki Clark, Nathan Vig, Natiel Lee Alexander, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sammy Haim, Serenity Towns, Skybuster Leo, That One Dumbass and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Alpha Sly, Almento 5010, A Random Pup, Ariel Kersey, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Beluga Master, Blitzwolf, Blue Gem, Borger with the Shotgun, Callum McCann, Chaz Ghost, Childish Lamar, Dr. Reaper R.I.P., Drachenwald, Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True Draco Slayer, Inblink, Jester Designs, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, Lemon Yu-Gi-Oh!, Manga Pages, Matt Simmons, Mick Spoofy, Michael Shimabukuro, Nitromo, Obsidian, Ramen Resurrection, Seawing 22, Shizuki Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, Taylor Seymour, Terror Top to 3, the Pokemon 52, the Legendary Raven and Zal Dreka, as well as the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you could check out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you liked what you saw here and want even more big updates, check out this video where we cover all of the new cards that dropped in 2023 for our previous videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. If any number of... I was supposed to say if any number of Ron ritual monsters. Where's the Ron rituals at? For me, that's gotta be Goblin Breaker. Goblin Riker, yo, when are we getting the next generation spin-off for lore? For me, that's gotta be Goblin Biker Troika Griare, and, oh, man.